Good evening and welcome to another Monday Night Live. Simon and I, live from the UK in Surrey, bringing you all of the best golfing content this Monday evening. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the Olympics. It's all over now, and now it's back to the wind down for the golfing season. FedEx Cup to come. A great win for Aaron Wright at the weekend at the Wyndham Championships.
Yeah, he's just someone whose career is just continuously improving. I think that's what impresses me so much with him. He knows his game. He plays his way. He takes, he wears his two gloves. He wears his head covers on irons, and you know what? He's actually just, joking aside, he's just continued to improve, and just how he closed that out, really impressive.
Really great to see. Unfortunately, a bit of a triple bogey for Grayson. What's his surname? Anyhow, he made triple on 17, didn't he? He made triple on 17, which let Aaron in.
Yeah.
No, nobody likes to see that. Nobody wants to see someone fall over the line. But great win for Aaron in the end. We have got 1 million iPads this evening. I've got 3 now, 1 controlling the cameras and 2 for the different channels. So we're taking, as usual, all of your questions on anything club fitting to Test the Maestro, Simon next to me, and anything golf coaching. Feel free to drop them over to me. The Olympics, any takeaways for you of the Olympics?
Apart from the opening ceremony, no, I think actually genuinely it was a really good Olympics. I think that the takeaway is how evenly spread it all is. I think for GB to have got as many medals as we did, continuously the last 4 Olympics, about 65 medals. I think that's just getting harder and harder to do now with how much more investment, with how much more focus there is from all the nations. I just thought it was a really, really great Olympics, and actually I'm really looking forward to Paralympics.
And how much interest have you got in the FedEx Cup playoffs?
Not a lot.
No,
not yet. I think once they start to get into it, I'll as we get to the business end of it, I'll get more interested. Right now, it's kind of jockeying for position for the last round. Really, I think once we get maybe the second half of the second tournament, lead into the Tour Champs, I think then for me it starts to get tasty.
Yeah, I think that the change from going from 125 to top 70 made a much better bit of TV for the Wyndham. I think the full series, which comes after the Tour Champs, which for the rest of the golfers that are going to be playing out for their cards, so that difference between 125 and downwards, all of a sudden they're playing out for their cards, which is all of a sudden later in the season. Always felt really quite early in the year, didn't it? August, that someone's losing their card. So all of a sudden, it feels like you're almost in the swing of it, when actually February or March is almost your mid-season, whereas August is kind of end of season. So it never really felt quite right, that to me, but good to see they've adjusted that and we've got the FedEx Cup playoffs the way I think it should be.
Yeah, I'm still getting used to the Open being the last major. It still feels really earlier in the year. And the fact that we're already in the end of season playoffs this next week, you kind of go, as you say, we're only, now I know scheduling for American football and things is the big driver for that, and I get that, but it just feels so, as you say, it still feels so early in the season.
Very much so. Well, we've got the iPads standing by, so we are going to get straight into the questions. I'll put my camera control down. James still away, swanning around on cocktails and dreams. We're going to open up with Ian McKinley. Nice to have you with us, Ian. Good day, gents. Have you played around with fairway shafts, 3 woods and or 5 woods in the driver head and adjusted swing weight to compensate for the shorter shafts? And if you have, how were the results?
Yeah, so I actually did a fitting earlier on today where a shorter shaft length, now granted not quite fairway with shaft length, but improved ball strike for someone. You get a lot of players where the longer shaft length it gets harder to keep the club in plane and keep the face square. So most likely for a right-hander, a miss to the right as they swing down, the face opens, and so the club can get behind and out of sync. So a lot of the shafts on the wall, the 3-wood shafts, we could interchange into the driver heads as well. So if you get someone who can move it on a nice line but can't get the face under control, the 3-wood shaft length is something we do an awful lot of. And as you say, you just have to adjust the head weights a little bit to find the right balance, but a lot of success doing that. And you might give up a couple of miles an hour on club speed, but if you get strike and most importantly you get dispersion down, then you're in play, and that can be a major win.
Just see my sister's arrived in the chat, and my only dread is if Gary turns up, and now we've got the dreaded twosome. Nice to have you along, sis. Thanks so much. Says we are looking sharp.
Oh, it's these new, Stitch Golf polo shirts we have.
Yeah.
We still have our Peter Millar stuff, but we're just literally fresh in the back end of the week.
Yeah, like it. Brandon Law, hi Simon. What are your thoughts on head centre of gravity location for irons?
Something that's definitely noticeably more and having more and more of an impact. Brandon and his brother are very, very sensitive to things like head weighting and weight positioning. So we're seeing more and more iron heads where there's dense tungsten heel and toe and moving weight away from the middle. And actually, some players strike the ball better with a centre weighted head. So more of a kind of a muscle back style head, and ironically, a less forgiving head can sometimes work better for someone. So it is something that you can get a head that you think is going to work really well, but actually the mass out in the toe can negatively affect ball striking performance. So really, to me, I was watching one of the Titleist videos recently, and they're saying with the new heads, fitting is so important, and ultimately, I know that's what we do, but you can pick a head that you think's perfect, and it's a rotter. So yeah. Increasingly more important as more and more weight's being moved away from the centre.
Interesting stuff. I learn as much on these Monday Night Lives as possibly you do. If you are new to our Monday Night Lives, do give them a like and share, and potentially tell your golfing buddies of what we're doing here on a Monday night. It'd be great to have more of you along. Another question in from Papa B. Hello, young men. I assume you're talking about me.
Obviously.
There's a lot of information on wedge fitting for divot takers, but not too much on irons. Can you please explain or show how to choose irons for those of us who plough the good earth?
So actually, it's something that with wedges you hear about a lot because of all the different grinds and bounces that are available. In irons, there aren't that many, or certainly not talked about. One thing we are seeing increasingly is a bit of front edge beveling, so softening that front edge so it's not as sharp. But because of ideally getting ball turf and making more of a forward swing, the low point is a bit further forward in irons than it can be with wedges. So it's something that's less used. A head like, I'll get a couple of heads in a moment, a head like the Strixon head that has the angled sole has a bit more bounce on the front half, and that can help someone who gets a little bit steeper. But there aren't that many heads that cater for the steeper angle of attack and someone needing a higher bounce on an iron. The more game improvement you go, they can sometimes go that way. But it's not something that, it's not a huge factor, because if you get the timing and the balance right, the strike on the ball comes first. But I'll get a couple of irons to showcase what I was talking about whilst you take a question.
Brilliant. Just move over to the Good Golf Coaching app. We've got young Barnabas in our midst this evening. I'm going to try and get him on tonight. Andy Corso, evening all. Nice to have you with us, Andy. Jasper asks, loves the weekly show. Thank you so much, Jasper. Any advice to closing the club face down too much with the driver? Alternatively, how would you practice club face control? So closing the club face down too much with the driver, a lot of that comes from too much shaft lean. And I did a video on this just recently. And if you haven't checked it out, it's really useful, because when we're taking a driver out and we're really all trying to hit it much harder, this constant pull we have with the driver that invariably makes the ball go out to the right. We then have to flatten off the wrist to really get that face to point straight. So shutting down the driver face only is bad if you're continuing to make the loft look to the floor. If the face is looking shut coming into strike, it then gives you the opportunity to add a little bit more loft to it with a change in shape with your left wrist. So you really want to work out, is the face shutting down because it's open pre-strike, or is the face shutting down simply because it was shut coming in delivery and then you just held on to it? So you want to think about which one you are. If you are shut coming into it, start to work on a bit more unload. And if you are pulling the handle, which is flattening the face out, then you want to think about getting that radius a little bit wider. So a couple of things that you need to ascertain with your own game before you apply one of those fixes, but hopefully that'll help you out.
A couple of iron heads just to display what I was talking about sole shapes. So this one's the Strixon head, and should be able to see the front half of that is a little bit angled, which that means that you get a little bit more protection. So if I turn it round, you get a bit more protection that leading edge before the leading edge catches on the ground. Titus CB head's got a very small amount of, hang on, I'm going to have to go, hopefully this is showing, but it's a very small amount of grinding on the front edge, which again softens that, but it's a narrower sole. And then in contrast, you've got a Callaway head here, which is a wider sole, and the high point's on the back edge. So there are a couple of things that can be done with iron heads that help to just resist getting into the turf. The other way, depending on what loft you need, is if you add a bit of loft to it, if you take a strong lofted head and add a bit of loft, then that adds a bit of bounce as well. So if you add 1 degree of loft, you add 1 degree of bounce. But if you're very steep, then potentially there's a technique thing to work on rather than trying to force something out of the iron heads. But if you play on soft turf and a steep, then that can make it difficult.
If you're looking to adjust your angle of attack, go check out some of my videos on angle of attack that will really be able to help you sort that out. Doug says, Stuart, you have such a good golf swing. Well, that's nice of you to say. You can definitely send it out there. Have you ever considered the Seniors Tour? I'm 48. I have 2 years to go. So I am definitely thinking or considering it. And it's something that I'm actually quite excited about. Hopefully I'll be in a different place with work and everything, you know, slightly different requirements from there, which allow me to have a little bit more time out and compete. But there's not much of a, you know, I'm certainly not thinking Champions Tour, but Stayshore Tour. There's not a tremendous amount of events, so it would still let me dip my toe in playing and stuff. So maybe, who knows? But thank you so much for saying those kind of things. We'll head back over to position golf.
I was wondering whether he's being a bit rude and saying that why aren't you out there already?
I know. The grey hair would suggest that I am maybe older than 48. Sorry about that. Ian M. Wedge shaft recommendations, please. Play KBS TGI Graphite 80 in irons. Yeah,
so the TGIs, as the numbers suggest, around the 80 gram mark, they're very evenly balanced. So if you want something a little bit heavier, then actually the KBS Tour Light, it's the same sort of balance profile, but sits at 90 but depending what flex you're playing, the regulars at 95 grams, that would be a good start point. Gives you a little bit more weight without overdoing it, but keeps a bit of more responsive feel and keeps it swinging similar to the iron. So that would be first port of call.
As I say, if you are new to a Monday Night Live, do give us a like and a share. But we also are very happy to test and hit any shots. We'll probably play a few holes later, but do give Simon a shout. He loves to test the old equipment out. Me, not so much. Don't want to wear my body out. But do let us know, and Simon will very gladly test equipment. He loves to do that, and I love to watch it. Chris Burgess, the Yorkshire Blade, is back. Comments, please, on the Axiom iron shafts in graphite.
Yeah, so really stable. So they incorporate some of the Velocore, well, not some of, they incorporate the Velocore technology. So that's really designed to stabilize the core, make the load more consistent, stop it overling. So consistency based, which is in the Ventus range of wood shafts as well. Quite a stiff feel. So they do them in 75, 105 and 125 gram weights. But they tend to swing relatively tip weighted. So for a composite shaft, they swing heavier in the tip end, very stout, very consistent for flight. So if you want a tighter, firmer feeling graphite shaft, then and you have deep pockets because they're quite dear, then great quality, but they are not cheap.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to keep on answering these questions, but I think we are quite different in our specs, spin numbers.
Yeah.
Let's hit a couple of 7 irons, and let's just, that'd be quite a nice talking point, because we
certainly
are very similar in a lot of things, but equipment, we are not.
No, as I say, charm, dashing good looks. Yeah, you've got better legs than I do.
Well, mine are more sun-baked than yours. And because we've got, this evening, I've got the old iPad that controls the cameras. You see, I can.
You see, it's tech really.
It's
he wants to play around
and
with tech.
We can even have the full side camera in here. Can I see that? Am I in the camera shot there? I am in the camera shot, I think. Am I not? Oh, 1 second. What have I done to the camera? I've done. Oh, God. The tech's all gone wrong. I'm just going to go back to the main one. That didn't work. It was a nice idea. It was a nice idea.
So yeah, 7 iron wise, I've got mine lofted at 33 degrees.
Okay.
Yours might be a degree more, I think.
Yes, I think it is. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right. So what's the key thing? We'll look at the flight, just the differences in.
Yeah, I think flight, spin, carry, speed. Let's get that.
So we'll get a couple of shots here. So
That's your shot up there.
yeah, so on 18 launch, 4 degrees down, so pretty orthodox angle of attack. 18 launch. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead because that was quite good.
That's about as
5.9
orthodox
on
as it.
spin, 167-yard carry. So I'd be playing when I'm loose. 170 is my kind of stock yardage with the 7.9.
So on here, you just need to press sim and then transition. Yeah.
Is that what you'd like me to do now?
If that once I've hit it, and then it'll pop it up on the screen for the folks at home.
Oh, you see, I'm a complete Neanderthal when it comes to this stuff.
Well, good time to learn. I hit that nice.
Wow.
I hit that nice.
Look at that, powerful. Yeah, so difference in data. Oh, it's still on the screen, I'm assuming.
That's it.
So difference in data, you're 1 degree less down.
Let me flip it over. Let's do that. Yeah.
So actually, club speed's very similar, 87-ish. Ball speed, yours is slightly higher, but the reason being, your angle of attack's 1 degree less down.
Yep.
So in theory, that would mean higher launch. And bear in mind, you've got a slightly weaker loft on that by 1 degree. So there should be 2 degrees more launch for you, but it's launched a degree and a bit lower. Spin-wise, within 100 revs. Spin-wise, you're within 100. Sorry, you're 900 revs less than me.
So this is Simon's data, and this is
that's your.
that's
mine there. Yeah.
That's Simon's data.
Yeah.
That's my data.
Yeah.
So we can bring up a comparison here, Simon, can't we?
Yeah. So if you the 4 tiles on the top right, and then just go table, and it'll show them side by
That's
side.
it.
Yeah. So if you take just raw numbers, ignoring the flight numbers, is half mile hour and club speed. You've got 4 miles an hour more ball speed. Now both were struck really well, but you're 1 degree less down, a little more closed on the face, but you have spun it best part of 900 revs less and launched it a degree lower for a delivery that should, all else be equal, launch it higher.
Yeah.
So what that says is your pattern is more kind of, you've got a stronger
Delivery.
More shaft lean coming into the ball, creating a stronger overall flight. Whereas I hit down more but deliver more loft.
Yep.
So completely different spin and flight patterns.
Yeah. Which is labouring the point of very different equipment that we use.
Yeah,
right?
Completely. Yeah, so I'm in an 8 degree driver, you're an 11 degree driver.
Yeah.
And as people who watch this regularly kind of would see, we are very similar club speeds. Yeah. But it's like how you approach the par 3s in wind on here. You're very different because you're a much lower spin player than I am. It does mean that I can maybe stop one a bit tighter to the front of the green and spin it off the front, which often happens to me. Yeah. Whereas into wind, you're not having to adapt your flight as much as I am. But really different delivery patterns.
We'll maybe hit some more in a moment, but thought that would be quite an interesting insight for many people out there. Josh Wright, top work, Lydia Co. Simon, what shaft were you using in the recent GT2 fairway wood review? Did not look the Oban Kiyoshi purple you normally use.
No, that one, because having the screws in the head and ease of switching around, it's the same weight as the one I used, but I used one of the stock ones. It was the Tensei AV Black 75, one of the stock Titleist ones.
All of a sudden, we have a lot of questions come in. Yeah. And I've just seen Gary's in as well. My sister's in.
I've got to go into quick fire mode already.
No, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Yeah. So Leo asks Simon, are you switching from the TSR 3 to the GT?
No. I think, and this is, I would be giving this answer whether I was having to pay for it or not. They would happily give me a drive ahead if I wanted to switch, but the TSR has been such a good change for me from M4 in terms of off-centre performance. And I can happily say, and Lewis will attest to this from our game, which he and his partner annoyingly won with him making an eagle 2 on the 17th hole, that I don't think I've ever driven it better. And in terms of straightness, consistency of flight, control, distance, there's just not enough technically, it's slightly better data-wise. It's slightly better spin off the heel, the GT than the TSR, but I would be foolhardy to change my driver from the setups in the moment. It's just too good at the moment.
EGRFX, good evening. What causes drop kicking with a driver? It happens to me from time to time and not too much on the internet on the issue. I enjoy this channel. Thank you. Well, driver is the longest club in the bag. And because it's the longest club in the bag, it's as close to horizontal as you'll get out of any of the golf clubs. So when you set up to the golf ball, look at the angle of the shaft. This is getting scarily close to horizontal. And so what happens is that when most golfers with their irons have been working on some sort of inside out path, and again, I'm being very sweeping because I don't know your golf swing, but drop kicking is when the handle rises up, which makes the club head drop back early into the shot. And I'm sure Simon will go on to attest, weight of club head is going to have a huge impact on that. But the more the handle rises up, the more the club head drops back. I've done a recent video on how you must unload the driver. It came out today, in fact. Go check that out, and that will absolutely give you the insights on how to never drop kick your driver ever again.
I like that. It shows, he's learning, listening and learning as he goes. But yeah, from an equipment point of view, weight, if it's heavy, as you move, club drops behind you, and that can move the load point behind, drops the club on the inside, or can drop it on the inside, which then has the bounce off the back of the ball, and then either the horrible flip over or the one that goes miles right. Yeah.
Ulrich Brew, good evening, Ulrich, and thank you so much for being a member of my channel. Really appreciate that. Great show, guys. Thank you. What do you think about the drill or swinging where you hold the club almost straight after impact and do not let the club swing through? Hate it with all of the passion in my heart. Yosh Nathavut, cavity back versus muscle back at same loft, same shaft. Would muscle back have improved distance?
No. No. Well, the only way it could is if the center of gravity being higher up gave you more efficient launch and spin. So you do occasionally get someone, if you tend to be a little steep and hit down it and hit higher in the face, then the muscle back with the center of mass in the head being higher can give you more efficiency. But all else being equal and neutral delivery, there's no real. It depends how much of a cavity back you're going to. That is the only kind of caveat I'll give you. If it's like a standard kind of muscle cavity where there's a little bit of perimeter weighting, there's just no difference. You're generally only going to see a difference from a tech change on head and a faster face, which changes launch and spin, versus if it's a single piece cavity back versus muscle back. Really not a lot in it.
Very good insights, and you need to be trusting everything that he says because he's seen it all. Yosh says, love your broom video, sir. Well, thank you very much. There's a whole playlist. I think I've done 5 now, and I've got a 6th one coming out on Wednesday. Stay tuned for that. Nick West, evening, gents. Love the live shows. Thank you. We love doing them. Looking forward to tomorrow's trip to Precision for a lesson with Stu and collecting the new wedges after a fitting a couple of weeks ago. That's fantastic.
What a day that is.
What a day that is.
It's actually hopefully not quite as hot as today, and you can go and use them afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. David Rice, hello from Canada. Hello, David.
Afternoon.
I watched and followed your grip videos this morning. The right hand on top is very tricky. Can you show the top hand again, please? I really get your instructions. Thank you both. So I talked about the right hand being more on top of the golf club. Everyone has always talked about really this crease, but the reality is, Barney coming to join us, the reality is the palm of the hand, this crease in here, this lifeline, wants to sit on top of down this bone here on my left hand, and then the fingers sit underneath. So this is how you place the club, the right hand on the grip. It's all too easy to go into the base of the fingers and then stretch your hand over. And that, my friends, is not the same thing. The contact patch on your fingers is crucial. So going with the hand on top. And the reason why that's so important is because what we're trying to do is create that kind of force and pressure on the handle so that it stops the head drooping and lifting the handle up in the air. Because when you think about it, we've got a light end and a heavy end. When that golf club swings through strike, that club head is trying to be pulled to the earth's core and the handle's trying to lift up in the air, which when you've got a club swinging at 100 miles an hour and you're thinking about inside out, is it any wonder why you drop kick drivers and make the club sit back there? And that's why head weight is so crucial, because a lot of golfers are not aware of what they need to do with the handle to appease the weight in their head. The head is being, or you are being very submissive over the head weight. And a great analogy is if you've ever been to a trick shot show where a trick shot guy sticks an old shaft in the ground and then tries to get the amateurs to hit a ball off a high tee. So you've got the high tee up here, and we've got every golfer in the land trying to swing inside out. So the handle is going up and out to the right. Where's the club head going? It's falling to the floor, isn't it? So if the club head's falling to the floor, how could you ever get the club head in to strike the golf ball? Whereas if you understand that you need to support that head weight with the good pressure points through your grip so that the golf club can be supported, you'd be able to whip it off a high tee, no problem. But because the floor's down there and we can just cattle prod the club head into the deck and get the ball somehow, and of course we've got loft angles and great equipment and great fitting that makes that all kind of work, you understand that this end here has been really been forgotten about for so long. And so all I've tried to do is make people understand how important it is to hold the club appropriately, and then how that grip needs to manage this head weight that's always trying to sag itself to the floor, and what we need to do as a human to make that all work. And when you understand those two individual components and how they must go together, as far as I'm concerned, with the Ada TrackMan and the way we move things like sports box now, it really makes this game a no-brainer. We can all play great golf. There should be no reason why people are playing, certainly dreadful golf, you know, to the point where they want to give up the game, which we hear all too often. Shouldn't be that way. Or we need to press OK in case the TV suddenly all switch off. But that grip series and a lot of my stuff on my channel is all about understanding the swing for what it is. You all got various idiosyncrasies to your swing, but understanding that there are some methodology behind swinging this club and hitting a golf ball well, in my opinion, anyway. Back to the channel of Precision Golf. I always forget where I get, man, I'm going to need glasses soon. There we go. Beaver Gladiator. Now that's a good handle.
That is,
Beaver Gladiator. We could go in all sorts of directions with that, but we're going to stay on track.
Absolutely. How
do you feel about indoor wedge fittings? I'm worried about finding the right balance between the turf and a mat.
So I had a chat with Corey from Vokey, number 3 at Vokey, and we brought up this exact subject. If the fitter knows what they're doing, it doesn't matter what surface you are fitted off, whether it's a mat, turf, sand, ultimately you're only fitted on that surface on that day. And actually we play on so many different types of turf and conditions, wet grass, wet turf, dry turf, you know, thick grass, thin grass, that actually the wedge has to work for you. And actually if someone knows what they're doing in terms of looking at your delivery, the weight of the club, what kind of shots you play, and tries to understand the conditions you play in most regularly, then that can be interpreted and extrapolated across the spec. So, you know, you could be fitted on the nicest piece of grass going, but if the bit you play off is different, then it's irrelevant. So it's actually just as long as the person fitting you understands your game, your angle of attack, has the data to look at how you swing, and then can look at the distances you play and the way you play the shots, then you know it's no issue whatsoever. Absolutely,
absolutely. I was going to go into angle of attack, and angle of attack at 4 down can come in very different ways. You've just seen Simon and I are 1 degree different, but the implications of that 1 degree were way more than what 1 degree was delivering. And so the 4 degrees angle of attack is you could have 5 people with 4 degrees down, and they're all delivering different loft angles with the same golf club. So then that's the experience and expertise of a good fitter, being able to work with that. So whether you're in it off the M25, hitting off of mat or grass, matters not.
And actually, and to your point, you can get someone who has 1 degree downward angle of attack, but needs higher bounce than someone who's 6 degrees down because of how they're putting the club head into the ground and through the turf. So it's really, as long as the fitter is skilled enough to understand your game and why you deliver the club that way, they can then work out what the club needs to do to help you get consistency of strike.
Until TrackMan can read the handle relationship to the head, it'll always be a really good experienced fitter that will be able to tell you how to deliver a golf, or how you're delivering the golf club, I think. TP Hartley. Hi, guys.
Like fishing books?
I'm glad you went there.
Generational
Excuse
thing
me, I've extra chili sauce. I've overlooked another great handle. Hi, both. Love the show. Highlight of the week. Oh, that's nice of you to say. For Simon, have you tested the new Proto Concept CO5 TP? If so, any thoughts? Would they fit in a similar performance lineup to the Titleist T100? Thank you.
There's actually a head we've got to add in, so I haven't hit that one yet. But as you say, from a performance point of view, the Proto Concepts have never really been a distance iron. It's been very much about consistency and forgiveness. So across all their lines, their kind of standout feature is the fact that in the CO5 versus the Muscleback, they had the same loft, and there weren't really ball speed variances. It was more margin of error kind of forgiveness. So as to whether they're going to be quite as strong playing as the irons you mentioned, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, due to get those in hopefully very soon, and we'll as soon as we do, we'll get a review up.
Gary Satterfield. Hi guys, can Simon dance as well as you, Stu? Your moves the other day were impeccable. So I did a short on my YouTube channel, dancing to music whilst hitting a driver. It was a little bit risque, and that's what he's referring to. Go check it out if you haven't seen it.
No, dancing for me only happens very rarely, and after
dark,
a couple of shandies, and very much after dark. He'll be better.
Tim G. Stuart, for a functional draw with driver, what do you mean by functional draw? What is your preferred path, direction, angle of attack, and face angle? My only request is the face is looking some degree left of the path. All of the other stuff will depend on how the human is moving, because those numbers, like we've just talked about with an iron, someone could be 1 degree up and delivering very little loft. In fact, the driver video that I did today, I actually talk about how you could create and generate an angle of attack of 3 degrees up on TrackMan and deliver a launch angle of 4 degrees, 6.9 degrees in fact it was, and yet I could create a 1 degree angle of attack up with the same driver and create 13 degrees of face angle, launch angle. So I can't answer it, but the only thing I would say is that I would want a face to path relationship of somewhere between half and 3 degrees left of the path, strike being half decent, and a loft angle or launch angle of around between 11.5 and 13 degrees. But again, depending on the club speed. So there's so many depends, that to say what are you looking for, all you need is some form of face left of your path, which is a negative value, and a strike somewhere near the middle.
Yeah. I'd say from a functional point of view, I would read functional as reliable. And for that, it's not a lot of face to path number, because then it's controllable. If you're getting... Yeah. If your path number is strong and you're getting then 3, 4, 5 degrees closed, then it's starting to loop. So you can be 9 degrees into out and 2 degrees closed, and that's a functional draw as long as you're doing it regularly. But then you've got to change your setup in order to not send it over there somewhere. So functional I would read as reliable, and that equals not much face to path.
Fine. Chris Burgess, the Yorkshire blade looking good, guys, like the pink on Simon.
Thanks
Looks good
very
on
much.
you. Ian McKinley, question for Stuart. I tend to open the shoulders with driver and get a pull hook. Please help with squaring the shoulders. Well, Normally, a ball position back will sort that for you. You'll meet it earlier in the circle, and then you won't hit a pull hook. You'll just hit a bit more down on it, and it will start a little bit straighter and a little bit lower. That would be the quickest way without me seeing a golf swing. Andy Morrison, hi Simon. I have a Ventus Blue 5S in my driver. Can you recommend any stock shafts for fairway woods which would be comparable? Great channel, thank you.
Thank you. A stock shaft that's comparable to something like a Ventus. You're going to be hard to find something that's going to be as stable as a stock shaft. And Titleist do a reasonable amount of offerings. It's their Tensei AV 65 is stable enough without being overly harsh. Normally what tends to happen is that the lighter weights, the 65s and under in the stock shafts, tend to be quite tip soft and quite responsive, and then you go 75 and they're really quite solid, but then the weight ramps up too much. So there aren't going to be too many stock shafts, I wouldn't have thought, but it's probably yeah, the Tensei AV in the 65, in the blue, I would say would be the most likely one to give you as close a match as possible.
Very good. Nick, I'm not going to try to pronounce your surname, Nick, sorry. Sorry, I'm not very good. Any shafts in the 110-115 gram range with profile similar to the Nippon 950 Neo?
The Neo, okay. So Neo's a softer tip designed for a little bit more flight, very neutral. Otherwise, I would say KBS Tour in the 110. That keeps a bit of tip response, neutral balance. That would be the first pick. The Oban, the CT 115s, probably spin a little bit less, but that would also be a similar profile and similar balance point. But those two, I think, would be the standouts for me.
I always have an issue with a K and an S next to each other. Is it a silent K or silent S?
Depends where it is.
Yeah, it goes KSO. This is his surname. KSOBIECH. Do you pronounce the K or do you pronounce the S?
Yes.
You brilliant, brilliant. Hopefully, don't take offence by that, but I'm not very good. Norwegian Warhound, lovely to have you back in the studio. Not heard from you in a while. Been playing DG S300 and enjoying the extra weight to pull against. Was wondering how the Modus 130 would compare. Have had grandkids for most of the summer, and I'm ready to play again. Hope you're well.
Grandkids and playing that way, you're a better man than I am. So the Modus 130 is actually 125 grams, so it plays a little bit lighter. And feel-wise, profile, they're very different. The dynamic gold is softer in the middle and stiffer at the handle and the tip end. The Modus 130 is actually softer in the tip and stiffer in the mid to upper mid section. So they'll feel pretty different. The Modus will potentially feel a little bit tighter, but swings slightly higher balance, slightly lighter. So quite different shafts, but it will be a little less effort to swing.
Very good, very good. Aidan, is the Ventus TR Red really tip soft, or is that just in comparison to the rest of the TR range? What's the balance point of the 6S TR Red?
So you're absolutely spot on. Yeah, the TR Red, whilst for the Ventus range, the Red is a softer tip shaft. It has responsiveness to it, but you're also with the Velocore, it plays fairly stable anyway. It's not really a high launch spin shaft. It's more kind of moderate. So it is all relative in that respect. Balance point, the TR in the 6S, it's a mid to upper mid. It's not a counterbalance shaft. It's pretty neutral overall, but the tighter handle makes it feel slightly higher balance than some of the more responsive shafts.
Can't beat a tighter handle. Tom Ashmore.
Hard pull.
Tom Ashmore. Tom Ashmore. Evening, gents. Missed the live last week, unfortunately. How dare you have life outside of Monday night at 6 p.m. Disgusting, Tom. We'll let you off this week. What is your favourite club you have ever owned? Oh, good question. Ooh. Also, Stuart, did you see the Turkish guy shooting in the Olympics? No.
Oh, so he basically stood like you were. Basically. So they had all these guys with tech and gadgets and gizmos on. They're like, the kind of joke stuff at Tin Cup. You see the guys on the range, him on the range, and they were kind of obviously lasering at the target. He literally just went, and he got silver. Just glasses like mine.
Brilliant.
He just couldn't have been what he looked like.
That's me.
Samuel L. Jackson out of Pulp Fiction just stood there with a gun.
That's me of golf.
It's very
Once
impressive.
you know, don't need any of that
I thought
crappy
that was
swing aids.
brilliant.
And
That
all
was
that
so
nonsense.
cool seeing that guy do that.
Brilliant. Love that.
Favourite club I've ever owned? Now that is a tough one.
Let's not have. We don't need 5 minutes of umming and erring.
No.
Can you get to the point?
Driver right now.
Brilliant.
He's right up there. Yeah.
Well, my favourite one. I love my driver at the moment. I love my driver, but I'm learning to love it. But my Callaway X Hot was pretty special. I mean, I love this, but I've still got like a soft spot for my Callaway X Hot. But this is definitely further straighter. But
he tells me not to go on about it, and he's going all misty-eyed about it in the driver. He doesn't play anymore.
Well, do you know what? I won't talk about that actually. So we'll go Martin Williams.
I'm going to throw one other in there actually. There was a wedge that Mura-san's Yoshitaka Miura ground for when we were over in Japan in 2007. We were talking about wedge grinds, and he went away, ground ahead, brought it back, and said, "Is this what you thought of?" Yes, I played it for about 7 or 8 years.
Really?
That from an emotive point of view, from a performance point of view, current driver.
Like it. Can you get Stuart? Aidan asks, can you get Stuart to hit a KBS Tour 130X with a T100 and see if the numbers differed to his Project X 6.5 shaft and if he notices any difference in feels?
Right.
That's the first time we've had a request for me to hit
I can ask him to do it. He might not do it. I can ask.
Yeah, I'll happily do it. Happily do anything you like. As long as I've got to keep my clothes on, we'll be fine. Daniel Winterbottom. Hi. In fact, we'll just go over to my channel just to see if we got Doug. I meant well by the seniors tour, by the way. Nothing to do with the full head of grey hair. No, I didn't take any offence by it at all, Doug. No problem. Stu, I'm struggling with losing a lot of distance with the driver. I have quite a laggy swing, which is great for the wedges and short irons, but not driver. How can I get some speed back? Well, I would do lots of right arm swings with your arm straight. Lag comes from when you sort of relinquish pressure with the right arm and it sort of softens it. I mean, a good swing when you think about that was someone like Paul Broadhurst, if you remember back in the day. But I would get you to take your club in your right arm and just make some swings where you literally lock out your right arm, set it as much as you can, and then start to feel like you can get some more pressure on the shaft outwards with a right arm and start to feel like you can get your right side releasing, because what happens is when you get narrow and laggy in your downswing, what tends to happen is your right side gives way and starts to work under. Whereas when you get that right arm a bit straighter, you'll start to feel a little bit more radius with the right side of your body at this delivery point in the golf swing. And what that'll start to do is when you start to get a bit more radius with the head on the way down, you'll start to speed up your body, because all of a sudden the body's not stalling out to wait for it to unload. So that would be my recommendation if you want to try and get a little bit more speed back.
Got the wrong length. Back in the mo.
No worries, while Simon dashes off. DSC6072, nice to have you with us. Question about clubhead speed. If I swing 87 miles an hour with a 7-iron, Swixion ZX7, about 118, 120 ball speed, how fast should my driver swing be? 45.5-inch driver length, just a ballpark, please.
Is it 87 mile an hour 7-iron?
Yeah, I mean...
Should be about 105.
Yeah, 105 would be nuts and bolts, yeah. Have we got... This is... I feel all nervous about hitting this.
You ought to hit yours first, I think.
Do you think? Four. Hit my one again first, and then hit... Is that my one?
That's your one, yeah.
That's mine.
Hasn't got a screw on the end.
That's the 6-iron, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I know what I'm going to expect.
You know what they're going to expect?
Well, I know what I'm going to expect from the feel side of things to swing.
Right. Don't forget you got to, when the ball's in the air, TrackMan Sim, transition. Yeah?
Got it. Complicated for a bare little brain like me.
It's all right. Make it a fair test. No, that wasn't a very good shot. That was fat and left.
I shan't
Forget
get
that.
it to look at the screen.
Yeah, don't let we don't. Nobody needs to see that. Nobody needs to see that. Okay, that was my swing. That was my swing.
There we go. So numbers wise, strongish flight-wise, but that's why you don't play 3 irons and 2 irons like I do. Yeah, good efficiency, nice strong flight, 189. Yeah. Right. Do I need to press something on here to get it back to?
Yeah, press main camera main, and then transition.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
It's easy when you know how.
You'll be doing it in no time.
I won't.
So what are we expecting? What are we expecting with this?
Well, I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay.
But they are quite different shafts from a. They should swing quite differently.
Right. Okay.
So weight-wise, they're very similar. So general direction may not change too much. A little more spin.
Yeah.
That should feel lighter in the head.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So in terms of regulating and timing shots.
But literally gone. The carry number is literally the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Slightly different way of getting there. The difference comes, I'm going to put camera main. The difference comes, so for these two shafts, because they're very similar base weights, and the Project X isn't the massively tip heavy shaft. It's a lower mid, that's more kind of mid, upper mid. That's why if you've got very neutral swing numbers and orthodox playing like you do, you can make both work for a standard swing. The moment you start to try to play shots with it, that's when that would fall down performance-wise, because it doesn't flow through quite the same way as that. So you then have to manage the club head, and that's then when the control will start to go.
So this is lighter. This is lighter as a mass.
No, dead weight's the same, if not a couple of grams heavier. But the balance point in that sits a little more up towards the grip. And so if you were playing, if it were the C-Taper 130 and the KBS Tour 130, then you'd see some red arrows going on in that, because they swing so differently. Right. This is only a marginal change, slightly stiffer feel, slightly softer feel. That one, you kind of spins it a little bit more. So in theory, flight-wise, you could say it's a little bit softer, but a little bit less under control. So hence. Yeah,
it definitely felt softer. It felt just, it just felt more soft.
Yeah, more softer through the tip. The Project X is really stable through that bottom section.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that gave you insight into what you were looking to see. Daniel Winterbottom, hi gents, questions for both Simon. Hi gents, questions for both Simon. Good graphite alternatives to Modus 130S.
Ooh, good. Well, any graphite alternative is going to feel harder. So because there's so much material in there, it's going to feel really stout. At that weight, there really aren't many that are going to not play like a complete plank. That's the difficulty with that heavy graphite. There's so much material they can get really dead. I mean, you've got if it's Modus 130, you've got shafts like there's a steel fibre in the 125, but that'll feel really hard. Axiom 125, although the balance point's more on the tip, but that'll feel really hard. Potentially even the graphite designs at the 105s play poker stiff. There really aren't many that are going to give you anything back. So it kind of depends what you want, what you're looking for from it as to what answer I give. Because there are lots of really stable shafts, there are several really stable shafts at that weight, but they might actually hurt to hit with. So it depends what you're looking for from the chain. So maybe let us know and I'll revert back to that one.
Stuart, any advice to help reduce steepness coming into the ball? I get really steep and attack from the outside. So attacking from the outside is a face-to-path value that's causing you to get outside in. So, and I'll just quickly demonstrate this. So, let me just pull my 6-iron back up here. That's my 4-iron, which I'm not gonna do. Where's my 7-iron? There's my 7-iron. So, Simon, would you be able to? Would you be able to bash the numbers up here? So the numbers that we're looking to see here is the face-to-path value, which is the very furthest box to the right. So you hit a shot.
I'm assuming it's the TrackMan launch.
Yeah. So pop it on the screen now, and then I'll. No.
Oh, not yet.
The other one. That's it. No sim. There we go. We're up.
God, look at that.
So we're looking
I'm
for
dangerous for tech.
we're looking for the face to path value being a positive value. Now, depending on how positive the value is, will dictate how much the ball bent to the right. So you can see that my path was outside in at 2.6. The ball bent away to the right. Now I'm going to keep the same face to path value, and I'm going to swing outside in even more. And hopefully I got them relatively similar. So I've got a face to path value of 9.9, and you can see my club path was now 11.8 outside in. If I didn't have an outside in club path of 11.8, I wouldn't have hit my target at all. I'm going to now get my face to path value exactly the same number, and I'm now going to hit with a club path straight. So a club path is fairly straight. I've got a face to path value super open. Now look how far to the right that ball's gone. So which one would you want? A good path? Would you want a good path or a face to path that's open? So you need to fix your face to path value. So now I'm going to give you a negative face to path value with an outside in path. So a negative face to path value with a path on the outside in. So 9 degrees outside in, a face to path value of -10. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a negative face to path value, and I'm now going to shift my path line from the inside. Now all of a sudden, look at the difference of the ball flight, the negative face to path and the path to the right. Now look how much closer the ball's gone to the target. So if you don't fix your face to path value, I promise you, you will be spending money on golf lessons until you move on to the next life, because it will never, ever change. So change your face to path value, do whatever you need to do, and you can find all of that stuff on my channel, starting with the Grip Series playlist, because I promise you, hold it well and you will never battle with a positive face to path value, or it will certainly tone it down. But hopefully that demonstration has given you some insights in how influential face to path is to affecting your path line.
So what is actually also quite impressive is the ability to do what Stuart's just done there, of actually manipulate that and control the numbers. It's very impressive.
Thank you very much. I've done it a few times before.
Still not easy.
No. So that was, sorry, there's so many news in high gents. Question for, okay, so Martin Williams, sorry, my apologies for that. Hi, been using a mate's G430 and hitting it great. So got a second-hand one in same specs, but goes so much higher. It even looks to have more loft. Is that possible?
Well, with ping, generally the tolerances are pretty good. So it shouldn't make that much difference. It depends where you got it from, would be the only question mark I have. But yeah, I mean,
whether they got it off the tour?
No, whether you got it online, it's a hooky one.
Right, okay.
I think, generally speaking, tolerances now are so much better than they used to be. You know, we used to get driver heads where you'd get a 9 degree and it would measure 8.5, and you get 9 degree to measure 10. And when you got the low loft one, which is the rare one, you'd keep it just in case you needed it. But whereas now you're looking at half a degree really. They are much better on tolerance for measured loft than they used to be. So I'd be surprised if it was that much difference. Having said that, in principle, it can happen, but it's unlikely now to get that much difference. So I would have it checked out just to make sure, just get all the details checked out. If you can get anywhere that can compare the two clubs, measure the lofts, and really get absolute numbers on them. It could be a swing weight issue. Head weights can be quite variable because of the way Ping build them. So that's something to have a look at for certain.
Very good. Carlos St. Patrick, recently iron fit for KBS Tour 120 grams stiff or X stiff, 93 miles an hour as well with 7 iron. Would like graphite to reduce arthritis in hands. Any graphite iron suggestions? Dart V of a Dart 5 or Axiom?
The darts are going to be a little bit less harsh. The Axioms and the 125s are really very stout. So the recoil darts, the USTs, are generally, any shaft when you get into that weight is going to be pretty stout in graphite, because the amount of layers, the amount of material in them versus steel's much thinner wall, because the base weight of the steel's heavier, so it requires less of it to get to the weight, which is why they tend to play a little bit more responsive at that weight. So But of the two, the dart is going to be less harsh for you.
Very good. We've got 5 minutes to go, and we've got a few questions to go. Papa B, thanks for the help, boys. At 48, Stuart, you're absolutely a young man. Thank you so much. Chris Burgess, the Yorkshire Blade. Stuart, video on unloading the driver is simply brilliant, a must-see. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. The Yorkshire Blade, Simon, can you hit the Cobra MB against the Mizuno 241? We might not have time for that this evening. We'll do that next week. We will absolutely do that next week.
I think I did that last time.
Oh, did you?
Did I do that last time? We talking about feel, or did I just talk about the feel? Talked about the feel, I think.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it next week. Over par, Mike. Evening, gents. Great show as usual. Question on driver hosels for Simon. Titleist Callaway allow loft adjustments without face opening or closing. Any other considerations moving a 10-degree head to a 9 or 9 head to 10?
So actually, any head that you change the loft on will change the face angle very slightly. Has to, because of the nature of the way the cogs work. So it might be that it's a half a degree, you don't really see it, but it will make a slight difference. The only thing to consider, if the lower loft moving up in loft moves the centre of mass down in the head. So in principle, keeps the spin just a little bit lower. If you think you're moving the back of the head down to crease more loft, you're lowering CG. It's easier to strike it higher up the face, proportionate to the centre of gravity, and therefore keep spin off. That would really be the only consideration. Lower loft opens the face, higher loft closes it a little bit. So outside of that, very slight change in spin, but pretty similar. TP Hartley,
999. Have you hit any of the new Callaway Apex irons? TI Fusion look nice.
I have. There is an embargo. I'm not sure what time the embargo lifts. There is an embargo on the irons, which I can't talk about them yet, but I have hit them, and performance very strong.
Very good.
I can't say anymore.
Very good. Zach Stokes, similar to Carlos' situation and question, I'm looking to try graphite shafts in my P790s. In driver, I prefer stiff butt and tip sections and a high balance point. VA Comp, Nemesis, Drago, thoughts?
So, there's a little, I'm just going to make sure I don't miss any of this bit. Graphite. So, yeah, I mean, stiffen the butt section, button tip with a high balance. Yeah, high balance in the iron shafts. Actually, Acra do, their ICWT goes up to 115, but that'll be a higher balance shaft. There's things like the MMT and the Axioms are more tip heavy. Even the graphite designs play a little bit more tip heavy. So actually the Acra in the ICWT series, so it's 115 grams, but that is a slightly higher balance shaft.
Very good, very good. Hi guys, loved the show. Very informative as usual.
Thank you.
As for earlier, I love my Callaway mini driver at the moment, but I will never want to part with my Mura MC502.
Yeah.
Good club. Dave Hurley, evening guys, evening Dave,
Evening,
nice
Dave.
to have you. Would a TX shaft at 70 grams be better at dispersion than an X stiff 65 gram shaft, especially left to right dispersion?
It depends who's swinging it. There's the weight makes more of a difference in terms of I think you can get that shot shape so many different ways, and the weight and the player interact so many different ways that I honestly couldn't tell you. There'll be some players that one will suit and some players that the other will suit for totally different reasons. So the answer is definitely maybe, I'm afraid.
Don Keek, do you have any experience with Vice golf balls? I've not used them personally.
The Vice balls pretty good. Then they don't last quite as long. Some of the older ones had like a matte finish, which really didn't last long at all. Actually, general performance very good, but the covers tended to wear a little bit faster. But yeah, good ball for the price.
Daniel Winterbottom, thank you so much for your help, Stuart. That's so me. All outcomes. Grip playlist is on tonight. Simon, I like the feel and weight of the Modus in graphite. Good stuff. Andrew Hommant, are there any brands that marry better or naturally fit together better than others when building a bag in a fit? Good question. For example, irons in one and wedges in another.
So the only one would be ping irons and wedges if you're going longer than standard, because the ping wedges are the only one you can get lighter head weight to build longer than standard and not get a very heavy swing weight. So that would be the only one that really stands out. I mean, from a feel point of view, okay, mirrors matching through because then it's the same feel. There's really nothing that's going to feel that way. And if you're wanting a softer feel, I mean, actually, a lot of the wedges feel quite soft now, so it's hard to say. Other than if you're going longer and don't need the standard head weight, then the pings would be the one that stand out from that point of view.
Very good. Joseph Worthley, thoughts on Tour AD shaft line quality versus Fujikura and Mitsubishi?
The quality of materials of all of those companies is fantastic. Tour AD have very slight variations between models. The VF is probably the one that has the biggest difference. It's a bit more stout, but there are very slight variations in terms of feel and performance through, whereas you get bigger differentials from Mitsubishi and Fujikura through their lines. The Graphite Designs is more of a gradual, it's gradual progression through lots of shafts that kind of overlap a little bit. So, but great quality, all of them, and I know you couldn't mark one out quality-wise versus the other. It's just one will swing better for someone versus the other, and that makes them the best for the player.
Fantastic. Well, Barney has fallen asleep, so that pretty much says everything about this 1 hour for him. But hopefully it's not sent you asleep and you've really enjoyed it. Simon and I always really enjoy these hour-long shows. We're going to be back next week at 6 p.m. The Cocktails and Dreams guy that normally does the camera, James, is going to be back with us, which we can't wait because I can't cope with all these different laptops. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Do share it with your friends. Give us a like because we'd love to have more of you back next week. Save all your questions up during the week, fire them at us, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.